Welcome into Between the Pylons. Today we are doing a little bit different of a thing for this channel. I've been doing a couple mock drafts, but I haven't really dove into the mock draft landscape yet. So I'm going to dive in here today and do a little bit of a different type of mock draft. I want to do a running back heavy mock draft. How many running backs in this loaded running back class that we are in this year can we sneak into the first round and still have some semblance of a little bit of maybe reality? All right, we're going to get a little weird, but hey, let's get into it with running back mock draft. All right, let's get into it now. Look, we're going to do a running back basically for every team that really needs a running back at any point. This is not going to be super realistic based, so if you're in the comments talking about how crazy some of these picks are, yeah, that's the point. We're having fun with it. We're just a good old time down here. I do think the Titans would go quarterback, running back, maybe a position they could take in the third round, but not a big need for them at this point, especially with all the other needs they have. Cam Ward's going to be the number one pick in the draft, whether they trade it out to another team or the Titans just end up taking him. I believe that. I'm kind of sold on that. We'll see if that projection ends up being right. Maybe it's still Shadur. I don't know. We'll see. Browns. Chubb is probably gone. They definitely need a running back of the future. They're first in line for Ashton Genty, so we are going to give it to them. Who needs a quarterback when you got Ashton Genty? Am I right? Giants, they got Tyrone Tracy. I don't know. They could definitely use a guy in the third round. Just in this class, they'll probably take it. I'm going to go ahead. Let's just give him Shadur. Let's give him the other quarterback in the class. I have my doubts about that, but we'll move on. Patriots, another team. They could definitely use one. Their running back room is pretty weak. Their offensive line is pretty weak. So, take that for what it is. I think just really quick, I will say, I honestly believe from Hampton to Judkins on this list and everybody in between, Scatabo, Sampson, Johnson, and Henderson, I could probably make a little bit of a tier break for you guys and give you a little bit of a line of demarcation, but ultimately, I think they're all kind of in a tier on their own. I probably won't go exactly based on how I would rank them because it's going to be team-based, right? It's going to be needs-based. Certain skill sets are going to fit different teams a little bit better. With that said, I'm just going to give them my number 2 running back in this class, which is Caleb Johnson. I just believe in him. I think he can do it all. I think he has all the traits that you need to be a number 1 running back in this league. So I'm going to give that to him. If you disagree with that, that's fine. You're allowed to. Moving on to the Jaguars. They got Etienne. They don't need to draft another running back in the first round, whether it was real or fake. I'm going to say that, no, they have so many guys that they've drafted early in the first round. Let's give them Travis Hunter. Let's give them a first-round corner instead of a first-round edge rusher. They've done both in the top 5 kind of in recent history, so why wouldn't history repeat itself? The Raiders. Man, this is tough. Because obviously in real life they would never take a running back over all the other needs they have. But who's their number 1 running back, and what is this for if not to be absolutely insane and take the third running back off the board over Abdul Carter? Why not, right? They need a running back. Who even is on their roster right now? I got Abdul. I feel like Abdul is there. I gotta look it up. Yeah, Amir Abdullah. I was right about that. And Alexander Madison. I was like, I couldn't remember which backup running back they had from another team. Alexander Madison, originally from the Vikings, had a moment there as the backup for Dalvin Cook back in the day, and now he looks like he's just a back into the roster running back that'll probably stick around for a couple more years. They need running back. Who am I going to give them? Raiders. What fits the Raiders? I'm going to give them Scatabo. Only because it fits. Like, he is not. I told you if I had a tier break, he would probably be on the other end of that tier. Like if all of these guys were in tier 2 and tier 3, which NT has by himself tier 1, Scatabo would be in tier 3. So I want to give you a little bit of context, but I just think the way he runs, his physicality, his grit, his grind, you need that type of mindset on a team that can use the influx, they can use that energy, right? And it feels like Raiders energy. That just feels right to me. So we're going to do it in this absolutely insane mock. We're going to have Cameron Scatabo go ahead of maybe the best player in the draft in Abdul Carter, all right? And with a team that absolutely would never take a running back in the first round in any universe, even this one, we'll give him Abdul Carter. And then Panthers are on the edge. They drafted the first running back off the board last year. And I know he had a couple injuries, but if you project him to be the starter next year, our RB1 projection from last year's class, which last year wasn't a good running back class, I'm going to say they probably wouldn't do that. They definitely wouldn't do that, but I'm going to say no even for this exercise. We're going to give them a little bit of other talent. Where can we go with this? They could use corner. They could definitely use corner. I love Will Johnson. I still think Will Johnson, I think he has a little bit of Singletary in him. Like, he was ready for the NFL last year, couldn't go, and then just kind of had a down year, but like everything's still there for him. I still believe in the talent. So I'm going to take Will Johnson over Barron, who's kind of jumped up draft boards, who I'm just not sold that he's better than Will Johnson yet. Saints. Okay. I'm gonna give Kamara a little bit of respect on a team that should be rebuilding, that should just go for the trenches on whatever side. Let's give him Mason Graham. Let's do that. Bears, another team. They could go running back. They could. I could see it. Ben Johnson comes over from the Lions. They utilize that 2 running back set a lot. If Swift I don't even know what Swift would be at this point in his career. I mean, he kind of felt like he took a step back last year, so I'm not even really gonna overly worry about what Swift would be in this offense. A little bit of me wants to give him Trayvon Henderson, but I also want to stay away from the Trayvon Henderson's Trayvon Henderson is by no means Jahmyr Gibbs. Like there's a tier break there, a pretty major one. Now Trayvon Henderson has game-breaking explosiveness and speed, and he's a great running back. He's gonna go. We're gonna talk about him later. I'm gonna give him Dylan. No. I'm going to give him Omar. I think Hampton's just the best running back on the board, and I don't have a great feel for the exact type of guy Ben Johnson would want. I think ultimately he's probably going to want, that two-headed monster that he had with the Lions. But if I'm not accounting for Swift, which I'm not, then you can kind of pick whoever you want to be that part of that two-headed monster. 49ers absolutely would never take a running back. Let's give him Will Campbell. I haven't given him an offensive lineman yet. I'm not going to really worry too much about the teams not going running back. We're just going to kind of swiftly go through that. The Cowboys, the team who should be the odds-on favorite to draft Genty in the first round, just watched 4 running backs go ahead of them at 12 overall. That's insane. They still end up with some good options, though. I'm going to give them Judkins. I think Judkins is the best combination. I actually think I like Sampson a little bit more than Judkins ultimately, but I think Judkins is the best combination of an all-around 3-down back, and that's what the Cowboys ultimately need. So let's give him Judkins. Just looking at the board, looks like we're going to go non-running back here for a little bit. I just love Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren should be a top 10 pick. I think Tyler Warren ultimately will be a top 10 pick. If 4 running backs don't go in the top 10, he definitely will be. I'm just going to give him – I'm a Dolphins fan. I'm just going to give him my best player. I like that. I like him. The Colts are the floor for Tyler Warren. Just looking at the Colts, that makes too much sense. Let's give them – they need help on that interior – or on that front 7, I think. So let's look at it. Who do we have here? Edge, interior, D-line, and edge, and then we can throw a linebacker in. We're going to have 2 linebackers go out of the board. All right, and let's just be realistic to what I think. I think, again, I'm not going to really overly stress about the non-running back picks in this mock draft just because it's not really the point. Derrick Cameron, probably my favorite on that list. And this is another team. Front 7 needs a lot of help. I'm going to give him James Pierce just to kind of keep it rolling here. Let's give the Cardinals an offensive lineman, Josh Simpson. That feels good. Got to give this is another team. Could they go running back? No, I freaking love Brown. I'm not gonna give him a running back. I think Brown is the dog. They could probably use a compliment to Brown, but in the top 20, I don't think that's where we want to take a compliment. So let's go defense. Actually, they need help at corner, and Barron's here. Let's give him that. I think Seahawks, we have not drafted a wide receiver. I'm not gonna lie, I see this. Like, I actually kind of agree with that. I like T-Mac a lot. To rank him third, he's just not the third best player in this class. He's not, I don't think, in the top 10 best players in this class. He's the best wide receiver in this class. He's really impressive. His movement skills for his size is awesome. Tyler Lockett's going to be gone, so we're going to give him that. I think, obviously, people are expecting him to go a little bit earlier than that, but I'm just thinking, like, that actually does feel kind of right for me. I think if a wide receiver doesn't go in the top 15 picks, I'm not going to be shocked. I'd be, I think some people would be. I don't think I would be. The Bucks always have a great linebacker, right? Let's give them Jalen Walker. I think Jalen Walker's better than Campbell. I like both these guys. I think they're both first-round picks. But Jalen Walker out of Georgia, man, that's such a steal. One of the best defensive players in the class. Such a steal just because he's a linebacker. Broncos absolutely need a running back. Absolutely need a running back. I'm gonna give him Dylan Sampson, just because really, I don't know. I could see it going either way. I think Dylan Sampson, just all around great player. I think Dylan Sampson could take over that backfield. Is he? I don't know. I don't know what their favorite running back would be. I'm trying to think. Sean Payton. I've already done it, so I'm not going to go back and fix it. Sean Payton. I'm thinking the Alvin Kamara connection. That's not a perfect comp for Sampson, but I don't think Trayvon Henderson is either, and that would have been my other pick. So we'll move on for that. We'll feel good about that. Let's give the Steelers a wide receiver, Luther Burton. They could use that. Let's look at the Chargers, another team, and they absolutely need a running back. Henderson's on the board. And look, I'm gonna sit here and tell you, I actually see this happening. This is like one of the first ones where I'm like, obviously the board would break very differently. Other names would be on the board, but even if a lot of the names I've already drafted were on the board, I think they're gonna like Henderson. He would complement J.K. Dobbins really well. I feel like I like that a lot. I think, Henderson has that home run hitting speed and explosiveness that would complement really well. I could see that fitting. And the Chargers are always going to have a running back by committee style, even if they drafted one in the first round, which, again, Henderson could be sitting there in the second round and they could gobble him up. I think that just makes too much sense. The Packers, there's not a wide receiver we like. Like, again, the Packers need a number one. Mbuka is just such a solid floor guy. I'm not giving him that. I don't know. I love Walter Nolan. I have no idea how he's gonna, what the interview process is gonna be like for him. Malachi Starks is still there. I'm actually gonna give him Malachi Starks. I'm overthinking this, even though I said I wouldn't. Vikings could absolutely use a running back. Now we're getting into that next tier of names that, like, okay, who do we like? Who do you like? I can make arguments for a lot of these names. I will say I just did a draft profile on Devin Neal. I'm a huge fan of his. I actually do see a little bit of the possibility that he could be a 3-down back in the NFL. He's a little smaller. Obviously, I don't think that'll be the projection for him. I could see him earning that role. He never goes in the first round in any world, shape, or form, but he does here. I don't know. Like, I love Devin Neal. Devin Neal, go watch that draft profile and see all the things I like about him. I think he is explosive as hell. His lower half, he creates so much explosion from his lower half. Now we're going to run through a bunch of teams that probably wouldn't take a running back. I'm going to give, you know what? They could use a number two. Mbuka. That makes a lot of sense. I could see that. They have their legit number one. Obviously, it's been really, really unfortunate with what's happened to Tank Dell, but that just is what it is. I don't know. You can't expect him to come back to the same level. So let's give him a wide receiver, even though I think offensive lineman. There's no offensive lineman here. The Rams. Let's give the Rams a linebacker. Although Rams are just so good at finding this position later in the draft, I think the Rams would take a more valuable position. Like they would probably take a shot on a Walter Nolan or a Grant, but they need linebacker. I like linebacker here for them, so let's do that. The Ravens, what could they do? All right, I'm gonna take Walter Nolan on the field. I obviously really like him. I think he's a good player, and they could use another piece on that interior defensive line or that just defensive line in general. They take dogs. Walter Nolan might have some off the field issues, but he's a dog on the field. This is saying the Lions need interior. I think Kevin Banks is going to be an interior. I'll go with that. We'll just kind of run through this. Washington could go running back. Again, we're talking about the teams that like late part of the first round. A lot of these names will be off the board because they would have gone earlier because there aren't going to be 4 running backs going in the top 10. Washington, another team, I could actually really see them going running back. Man, there's so many good running backs. Like I'm going down the line. Jaquiz Hunter, I like. Trevor Eaton, I like. Manunga, I just did a draft profile. I like him. Tootin, I like. And again, none of these guys I like for the first round, obviously, but I don't like Devin Neal for the first round. I don't like Judkins or Henderson for the first round. Like I don't see, so we're getting bold. I'm gonna go kind of my flavor of the week with Martinez. I like Martinez out of Miami here, just to give them another running back. Let's see. I think the Bills would probably go interior. They could go wide receiver. There's no wide receiver to take though. I believe in Williams. Got to go. Just grab a Georgia guy, right? Like that always kind of works out. Moving on to the Chiefs, they could add another. They could add another name next to Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, obviously Pacheco goes down. They brought in Kareem Hunt. Let's give them DJ Giddens to be a complement to Isaiah Pacheco. And we just got so insane with how many running backs we got drafted in the first round. Not going to do that with the Eagles. Let's see what the best Georgia player on the board is and give them that. Oh, my God. There's no Georgia players here. What are we going to do? Shit. Let's give him Jack Sawyer. Why not? They love great players from championship teams, so why not? That makes sense. All right, looking at this board, Ashton Genty, number 2 overall. Look, Genty probably goes top 10. I really do believe that. That's obviously crazy. Browns would never do that. Caleb Johnson goes 4th overall. Patriots will probably talk about the running back position later on in the draft. They're never going to do that. They're going to go offensive line at 4 probably. Cameron Scatabo, I just thought he fits the mindset of a Raider. So we went 6th overall. They definitely need running back help. They're going to draft a running back. I mean, they're a lock to take a running back in the second round almost. Like, because one of these names is going to be there. They're going to be there early in the second round. They're going to take one of them. Somehow do Carter falls. That's so silly, but we had fun with it. The Bears, another team. Probably not first round, but Marion Hampton, one of the best running backs in this class. I don't think he's getting enough love. Really like him. Quinshon Judkins, one of those guys. I'm about to do a draft profile on him. That'll be coming out next week. One of the hardest evals that I've had so far. I mean, I think he's an all-around great player. Goes to the Cowboys at 12 in this mock, but ultimately I think you got to unlock Quinshon Judkins because, like, there's a version of him that is so incredibly talented that could just be a true 3-down back that is like one of the, Jonathan Taylor. Name a great 3-down back in the NFL. He can be that. There's also just, like, it felt like laziness at times. I don't know. It's just so tough because, like, you just see a different guy from game to game almost, and it's weird. And I know he goes to Ohio State for the money. He left Ole Miss, and Ole Miss didn't really fight for him too hard. Like, they knew what it was. They knew why he was moving on, and they just accepted it, and Ole Miss was fine. And obviously Judkins got the hardware, made the money. I'm not hating on that by any means. I'm just kind of describing the person, and maybe there's a connection there. I don't know. Moving on, Dylan Sampson. I'm a big fan of his. I'm going to be singing his praises throughout this process. Goes top 20. That's wild. But again, the Broncos, a team that actually feels very, very likely to go running back. If some of their names aren't there, and I'll say that the guy that I took one pick later, I actually really like for the Broncos at 20, Luther Burden. As I get through the mock process and start doing more mock drafts on this channel, you're going to see that a lot for me in real, like, mock drafts where I'm trying to be a little bit more realistic. That could absolutely happen. Looking at Henderson for the Chargers, I mentioned it while I drafted him. This, again, another guy, like this fits. Chargers could absolutely go for running back first round. Probably going to just try and find value later on in the draft realistically, but if they do in the second round, I could see Henderson still being there when they pick in the second round, and I like that fit a lot. I really do. Where do we got? Devin Neal. This is where it just goes completely off the rails with the Vikings taking Devin Neal out of Kansas. Again, I really like him. Do I like him? Is he definitely, the start of tier 4 for me? Probably not, but he was the number 1 guy on PFF, and I don't know. I mean, that tier 4 is going to be wild. There's just so many names. There's so many good running backs. God, this class is insane. Went through a little bit of a drought and then ended it with Damian Martinez to Washington. Washington, another team I could absolutely see them actually taking a running back. I think they'll get somebody better than Martinez if they took a running back 29th overall, but I could see it. And then DJ Giddens, running back out of Kansas State. Man, Kansas quietly had a hell of running backs. I really like DJ Giddens. I'm going to get a draft profile on him coming out really soon. Not exactly sure when, but that is the completely insane, unrealistic, impossible to happen running back heavy mock draft. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought about this kind of format. Is this something you're interested in? Do you enjoy this type of style? I'm trying to do more mock drafts. I'm doing draft profiles, multiple draft profiles every week for you guys. So subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the draft process, because I know I do and I love it, and I talk about it all the time on this channel. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.